Boston on Tuesday, January 27th. Feel the thrill of all your favorite superstars live in action just 2 days after WWE Royal Rumble. Don't miss John Cena, Randy Orton, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns battle Seth Rollins, Kane, The Big Show, and Bray Wyatt in an 8-man tag team match. It's WWE SmackDown live Tuesday, January 27th. Tickets are available.
You already know Kowloon Restaurant, established in 1950 and spanning 4 generations, serves a multi-Asian menu. Did you also know that Kowloon Restaurant is New England's premier Asian dining and entertainment complex, serving Cantonese, Szechuan, Thai, and Polynesian cuisine? And did you know that Kowloon Restaurant is also the home of the finest Japanese sushi? If you haven't dined at Kowloon Restaurant lately, then you simply haven't dined at Kowloon. Kowloon Restaurant, Route 1 North in Saugus.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Harley Race.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
This is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Wrestling fans, welcome to a special online version of Wrestling Insiders. I'm Dan Marotti, joined by the man whose #1 fan is Ryan Seacrest because he knew ABC wanted John Cena Sr. to replace Dick Clark and not him on New Year's Eve.
You know, that's true. They called. I just couldn't do it to my buddy Dick Clark. I said, Dick's been there for a long time. Everybody needs a Dick on New Year's Eve. So Dick Clark was right there on New Year's Eve.
Was your Dick rocking on New Year's Eve?
I mean, where are we going with this? I have no idea. I think that's another story for another time, you should say.
It will be a special late-night edition. Well,
whoa!
Johnny, it was announced this week on WWE Monday Night Raw, something that many fans and pundits feel should have happened years ago. A man that was rocking in his own right, the Macho Man Randy Savage, will be the headline inductee into the Hall of Fame in San Jose on WrestleMania Eve.
Oh, yeah! I guess it's about time. Macho Man Randy Savage, one of the greats. I remember watching him coming up. He and Elizabeth, the Hulk Hogan feuds, George the Animal Steel feuds. Lenny Fafo had a lot to do with keeping Macho Man Randy Savage out of the Hall of Fame. He finally relented, I guess, and now we have an inductee into the Hall of Fame that I guess the only thing I can say is it's been a long time coming, and the only thing I can say to the WWE is thanks for finally making the right decision with Macho Man Savage, and I hope someday you have a Hall of Fame building.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, you know what? I've said it before, I've said it again. I probably get myself in trouble, but if you're going to have a Hall of Fame, basketball, baseball, wouldn't it be nice to walk into a building, see the memorabilia, see the wax figures, see some of the matches, get involved via video into one of the matches? I think it would be one of the greatest gifts to the world of professional wrestling, for the fans, just for people who are just want to see what this whole thing is all about. But again, Macho Man, well deserved.
What about the Amsterdam Hall of Fame? Have you ever visited that one?
No, Dan, I have not been to the Amsterdam Hall of Fame.
Do you have an interest in the Amsterdam Hall of Fame? Those folks have a nice 2-story building with a lot of memorabilia in it. Since I have not been out that way since it's been constructed. I went to a few of the Hall of Fames in the early year before they had a brick and mortar version, but they've done a nice job in turning that into a non-profit organization for fans to enjoy. It's not WWE, but, you know, not everything has to be WWE for fans to enjoy it.
Well, WWE is #1.
Of course.
Let's be real about it, and they do everything the right way. And I would think that hopefully they will get a building. They will get a physical Hall of Fame. Football has a Hall of Fame with a building. Baseball, basketball, boxing, professional wrestling needs that, what I want to say, that last clip in the belt. That building, along with the ton of memorabilia that they have, would just be a tourist trap. It would be a great attraction. But Macho Man's inductee, I think it's about time. Whatever Poffo's reason was for withholding the induction, I'm glad to see that amends have been made, and finally somebody, along with the other Hall of Famers, will now be inducted.
I've heard rumors that WWE could perhaps put their physical Hall of Fame in a place that you and I share a great affinity for, Universal Studios in Orlando.
Wow, I love Universal. I was there for Halloween Horror Nights. I'm booking my trip already for this year for Halloween Horror Nights. You know, I think it'd be great if we get about 50 wrestling fans and go down and, down there to Orlando.
Have a big group
to
party.
Halloween Horror Nights, and we just do one of those trips. We have a guided tour. We do the ride. Man, I could just see it now. Whoa. We get in trouble. Anyway.
We would, definitely.
I would. Anyway, I think it'd be great if they do come to Orlando. I think it's a perfect spot for it. Universal represents, to me, the epitome of a theme park. It's just got it all. And now that the other organization is no longer there are some vacancies within the park itself.
Yeah.
I think that WWE would be wise to take advantage of that. And when they need a curator to run that Hall of Fame, it would be fabulous to have somebody fabulous run that for them.
I could see that happening too. I'm sure you'd have the Sharpies in your coat pocket.
I don't have any Sharpies.
No, I'm talking about in Orlando, but they have great relations with the city of Orlando. NXT is in Orlando. It kind of makes sense.
Well, they've done a tremendous job with the NXT. I don't know if you've seen any of their shows. I'm hoping that when I'm going to try to get down there in February or March. I am down there in March. For Southern Championship Wrestling, I'm going to be doing a couple of shows down there with Booker T. I'll be in Daytona Beach. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, a good friend. We may even have Bobby Lashley, the Boogeyman. But it'll be interesting. Maybe I'll just drive up and go over to see NXT one-on-one. I've heard so many great things about it and seen or viewed the talent that they have. And I'm going to make a point here that I don't quite agree that the NXT talent is making the Raw SmackDown talent look bad. I don't think that's the case at all. I think you have a different style and a different group. You've got a third faction, if you will. It would be like having TNA, WWE, NXT, and WCW. So add that to the mix. The wrestling world right now is looking for something new, something different.
Something fresh.
There you go.
We can talk about that as time goes on, Johnny. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about this idea that I haven't heard tossed out. What if WWE, along the lines of what they have at the Boston Garden, almost turned the Hall of Fame into a portable Hall of Fame that they brought from live event to live event, and they decorated the inside of arenas with the little area where they had memorabilia, videos playing.
I don't think that would work.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. Let me rephrase that. I don't think it would work in the magnitude that you're looking at. First of all, when fans crowd into the arenas, and you and I have both been there. I was at WrestleMania 30. That was, if you had any memorabilia there, you're lucky it would be still there. I mean, I'm not saying they're thieves. It's just there's a whole lot of people in one place. Yeah. I think that if they brought, and I guess the word you're looking for, I'm going to use, and it probably not as apropos, but if you're looking for the mini sideshow version, where you have a small setup, you can have your picture taken in front of it, that type of situation, excuse me, like they do with the magazine covers, might just work. But I think a physical Hall of Fame, a place, a destination, restaurant, I mean, it's all there, Universal, the restaurants, the physical plant. Then, if you'd like to make up as you say, that traveling sideshow, and bring that portion. If you're in Boston, maybe you bring a John Cena up. If you're in Minnesota, you do a Brock Lesnar. So I think that would be good. But to go anything beyond that, I think you're kind of risking it.
Well, Johnny, let's talk more about the Hall of Fame itself. Who else would you like to see go in with the class of 2015?
I have a fabulous idea,
right.
But I doubt that.
You in the celebrity wing?
Sure, I'd like to go in the celebrity wing. I'd like to see that happen.
I'd like to see that too, for a lot of reasons.
I'm sure a lot of people would like to see that, but I am not worthy. I really mean that. I don't know. There are so many superstars out there, so many individuals that have done so much for this great world of professional wrestling. I mean, even though they've passed on, you've got Argentina Rocco. I mean, an outstanding athlete. I used to watch him an awful lot on TV. You know, Haystacks Calhoun. You've just got people that contributed so much and gave so much. I just think that there's a multitude, and maybe what WWE needs to do is, with their WWE network, what they need to do is get out there and say, hey, fans, give us a list of 10 people presently alive or those that have since have passed that you would like to see inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Truly deserving, and your rationale. And I think the WWE would end up with a list of inductees for the next 40 years.
I don't think WWE really needs the help of the fans. I think it's just a matter of there's so many, as you noted, superstars that have passed on. I mean, look at someone like Luthez. Is there any reason why he should not be in any Hall of Fame that doesn't exist?
I agree. I agree. You know, say what you want about Jimmy Cornette. I mean, outstanding individual. Some would say all the marbles aren't in the bag. I would soon believe that Paul Heyman might be in the Hall of Fame. Another individual.
Yeah, he's still active. I wouldn't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, I think Paul's activity is going to come to an end.
There aren't a lot of, how can I say this without being insulting, A-list material left to go around. Most of the guys that are still with us have been put in. I mean, outside of a Sting, who else can you think of as A material to headline a Hall of Fame class?
Well, The Rock is going to go in. I'm sure The Rock will be in. So The Rock, you've got Sting. You know, when you
would you consider Kevin Nash Diesel an A-list?
Kevin Nash Diesel did a lot.
Because Razor Ramon wasn't.
No, and I would think that Kevin Nash deserves the same courtesy that was shown to Razor Ramon. They both did an outstanding job.
Both Hall of Famers in the WWE way of thinking, without a doubt.
Yep.
But is he the guy that you're going to headline? This was Scott Hall. He must have been third from the top, fourth from the top. And I mean, he was a guy that was a huge, even though this was just the Razor Ramon character being inducted, not Scott Hall for what he did in WCW. I imagine there'll be an NWO induction somewhere down the road where they're inducted for their own personalities. Like I said, Diesel, he was heavyweight champion for a year. He had a big run.
I don't think you need to have heavyweight champions. I think the Hall of Fame is about who has contributed and done what needs to be done for the world of professional wrestling. Toru Tanaka, Mr. Fuji, George the Animal Steel.
George is already in it.
Yep. So people,
and Fuji
again,
is still.
Yep. Tanaka, I don't think is in.
No.
So I think they need to look at these individuals who contributed and gave so much, either as a face or as a heel, to promote this great business that we call professional wrestling. And I think that as you begin to sit back and you look at some of those old tapes, and Pete Doherty, our friend Pete.
I love the Duke, but I do not think he'll be a WWE Hall of Famer.
No, because the marbles aren't all in the bag. And Pete spent a lot of, like he says, when we did the interview, Pete said, I could tell you every jersey that's hanging on the rafters from the Boston Garden, but there's a guy that gave, never took, gave. So maybe they need to have different categories or levels for the Hall of Fame. But anyway, as we go back over it and I look at all the wrestlers that I grew up with, the people that I saw wrestle, Pedro Morales, Chief J. Strongbow, these guys are already being looked at and being Strongbow's in. Mm-hmm. I don't believe Morales is in.
No, Pedro is in
is
too.
He now?
Before they went to the full-fledged WrestleMania Eve induction, I don't know if you recall, they had inductions in 94.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
95 and 96 on the night before pay-per-views.
Yep.
It was a smaller hotel banquet type style. But what about someone like the veteran from Auckland, New Zealand, someone we've had here in the Millennium Wrestling Federation, 5-time former WWF Tag Team Champion Tony Gurria. I thought he was in. I had to check. I thought he was
Dan,
in.
it's the first time I can look you in the face and say, I thought he was in too. I don't know what happened. I know that and those are the Tully Blanchards and people like this.
The Tully's in with the Horsemen.
Right, but this is what I'm saying. These are individuals that deserve recognition. Tony, I mean, he did what needed to be done.
He was there forever, forever.
It just goes to show me, and I don't mean this in a bad way, who makes the decisions on who to induct and why. That's all I need to know.
Well, Tony Gurria isn't going to help sell DVDs or network subscriptions, but at the same time, he deserves a place in that Hall of Fame. As certain as I am that Kevin Nash deserves a spot, Tony Gurria was a top star for them for 20, well, I don't know about, you probably know the timeline better than I, but he was there from the early 70s. He was still wrestling on Boston Garden live events when I started going as a kid, towards the end of the 80s, and he was a road agent with them forever.
Look, all I know is in some areas the Hall of Fame is gaining steam, in some areas it's losing steam. Some of the individuals that were inducted, I don't think, it's just let's get somebody in there. I think that it needs to become more refined. There's a criteria, there's a rationale. It's not like, well, Dan Marotti's been with us for 20 years. Oh, yeah. And I'm not being that to be derogatory or disrespectful to Macho Man Savage, because he's one of the best. I respect him, and it's too bad that he was taken from us at an early age. But what's the rationale? Why do I want to put you in this Hall of Fame? What's the criteria to be a Hall of Famer? What are the requirements? What have you done to contribute to this business? I think it becomes more meaningful. It becomes a reason. You ran 975 yards, more than any other athlete in professional football. You deserve to be a Hall of Famer. Okay? What did Johnny Fabulous do? Johnny Fabulous managed. He was a heel, got his own candy bars, cigars, had some fun, was on WWE. Does that qualify
Headliner.
me? Thank you. Does that
I've never not been in one of the featured segments on WWE, Raw or pay-per-view, as a matter of fact.
I'd like to go back and have some more fun, but does that make me a qualifier for the celebrity wing? How would you put me into the celebrity wing?
Well, let me throw this one at you. Do you think more people, and I'm asking you honestly, do you think more people remember your antics in WWE or Drew Carey's?
I would say they remember mine.
Do you even remember what Drew Carey did in WWE? Because I do, but do you remember what Drew Carey did in WWE?
I don't.
And I'm not saying that
I don't. And
I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm just
I saw
saying,
that show, but I'm saying I don't. That's how it stuck with me. And you know, I remember, like, okay, you say Larry the Cable Guy. I watched that episode when they had him on. That was like, you know, a bomb. It was a bomb. He came out, well, I skipped a colonoscopy to come here to do that. Larry, shut your mouth, get down there, do what you got to do, and get out. That was not beneficial. That was not beneficial to the show at all. Any more than the Muppets.
The Muppets were kind of fun, though. I'm a Muppets fan.
Yeah, but I like the Muppets, too. I grew up with I have 5 sons. My sons all grew up watching, you know, ooh, 1, 2, 3. I'm going, here we go, grab another cookie. Drew Mack. No, I'm sorry. I don't remember. I'm sure there are a lot of other people who don't remember.
He was in the Royal Rumble 2001. He got a lot of heat because he took, I believe, D'Lo Brown's spot, and he was eliminated in quick order by Kane. If you are looking at the history books. But that is a different story for a different time. What about one of the hot topics, the cool kids in the playground, talking about perhaps Ray the Crippler Stevens being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, perhaps by his longtime partner, Pat Patterson. One of the best bump takers I've ever seen on video.
Ray?
Both, actually,
Yeah.
but Ray
Yeah.
Stevens was phenomenal.
I have to tell you this. I've watched that man. I watched him in Pat Patterson. That's how I grew up, watching these guys. And I have to tell you something. First of all, Pat Patterson would never recommend anyone who wasn't a true Hall of Famer. And I really, this is what I mean by criteria, rationale. What's the basis? I think Ray the Crippler Stevens deserves a spot in the WWE Hall of Fame. Take a look at his track record. Take a look at what he did. Take a look at how he did it. That, to me, is Hall of Fame material. You know,
and he's someone you can make the argument he wasn't a big WWF guy, but he had runs with WWF. He had that feud with Jimmy Snooker in the early 80s, which was used over and over again on some of their best of Coliseum videotapes. So he's not a complete stranger to the WWE universe as a whole.
You know, I don't necessarily believe that a Hall of Famer has to be, let's take football, with the Patriots for life. He could have been with the Patriots for 2 seasons. Outstanding runner, most touchdowns in history, and moved on to the Bengals and then moved on to New York. Who really cares? he belongs where he belongs in the Football Hall of Fame. And I think that as you begin to look at these types of scenarios, and WWE begins to look at these types of scenarios, it makes more sense when you think about a quote-unquote Hall of Fame, because we're not just taking our own. You did a run with WWF, you moved to WCW, ECW, KGB, wherever you moved to. But the fact of the matter is, here you shined, and you shined here. You deserve to be part of our Hall of Fame, where we recognize, and this is to me what the Hall of Fame is all about, the excellence and professionalism in this business we call pro wrestling.
Unbelievable. Well, we do know the Macho Man will be the headline act. Hulk Hogan will be inducting him. That'll be interesting.
Oh, I would thought Lanny Poffo would do the induction.
Well, I'm sure Lanny will do the acceptance speech.
Give us
but
a
Hulk
poem.
will present it to...
Yeah.
You have heat with Lanny.
I have no heat with Lanny Poffo at all. As a matter of fact...
You get your little digs here. So let's talk about Lanny and Randy here now.
No. Listen, I have no digs, no heat. I have an autographed book from Lanny Poffo of his poetry. He and I had a tremendous discussion. I think that, what's the word I want to use? Because Lanny is a friend, not an enemy. But I think that, you know, sometimes when you make wine, you get some sour grapes. You have to get rid of those sour grapes and then continue to make the wine sweet. Some of us carry the cross too long. And I think that's the issue. That's my only issue. I just wonder if he does the acceptance speech, what kind of acceptance we will have, what kind of wording we will have, because certainly when he gets to that podium, it's all about the person that's standing there. So control or no control, not like last year with Mr. T.
Oh, please.
Where Kane finally came out and I was there. I was sitting there.
With Betty?
No, I was sitting up the back with Kofi Kingston and his wife.
Up the back? You were in the third or fourth row.
With Kofi Kingston and his wife, and Damian Sandow was there. And I just sit back and I say to myself, there were two speeches at that Hall of Fame last year that were exceptionally long, in my opinion, that could have been edited way down. One was a female inductee, and the other was Mr. T. I'm sure that Vince, Triple H, whoever was in charge of that production, was sitting there saying, where's that trapdoor in Kane? Being facetious. God love Mr. T. But that was just out of hand.
I got to call a spade a spade. There's no reason Trish Stratus and Lita should be in at this point. I mean, certainly, do they both belong? Yeah, absolutely. But they, you know, in theory, both could still come back any week. They're still young enough to do that. I think they just... See, I have to watch my tongue sometimes, too. We have this lovely set. But
well, what you're trying to say is what I've been saying all along.
Oh, no, I know.
Is it to fill voids? Is it to say we want female professional wrestlers in the Hall of Fame? You know, the Lonnie Kai's out there. I mean, let's take a look at some of these other female professional wrestlers, female valets, if you will, who are outstanding. Why are they not in the Hall of Fame?
I tell you this, do you know who I feel should definitely be inducted? Maybe even this year would be a good year for it, all considered, with what's going on in the realm of his reality. Rena Mero, Sable. I have to say this, and Linda Marotti, if I was still with you, I'd still say it. Rena Mero is the prettiest woman I've ever seen in person.
Well,
lovely individual.
I can say this. I've seen
lovely individual.
Well,
better looking in person than on television.
You were still worried about the two black handprints, I'm sure. No offense, Brock. I'm not trying to look for any trouble because I know you'd kick my ass from one side of this building to the other. Not a man to mess with. A great athlete, by the way.
I've told you the story about how on the eve of WrestleMania 20, I almost got killed. I can't remember the name of the hotel where they had the Hall of Fame, but they wouldn't let Brock Lesnar go because the next night was his last night and Goldberg's last night. And as I was entering the hotel, him and Sable were coming out the other way, and he pushed the rotating door so hard, it hit me and pushed me into the panel in front of it. And she was apologetic about it. He wasn't, and they just kept going. But
surprised Brock didn't give you the old MMA bang, knock you right out.
No, she's a very,
well, again,
gorgeous
you
woman.
and I are on the same track, and you know,
and very, very memorable moments. I mean, not only that, the best-selling Playboys in history, too. You can't
Lita,
forget about those.
wonderful human being, tremendous female professional wrestler, an outstanding performer. Speech was too long. I'll be really up front. I love her. I think she's a great person. I'd love to do some stuff with her again in the wrestling end of it. But I think you're right. That could have been a hold-off. There are others in line, and I would agree. Sable might be one that they should look at. I mean, maybe the reason they don't do this type of stuff is because of the way that Brock does business. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I use that term because, to Brock's credit, and I can't say my client, Brock Lesnar, you know, Paulie, baby, I think he's getting heavier. Honest to God, I took a look at him. He's been hitting Taco Bell too much. But Lesnar just gives that smirk, and he goes, you know, he's just got that look. But he's a businessman, and I would say this, a very, very, very smart businessman. And he wants to get back in the MMA, as he should. This is where his life and his heart are. Maybe he'll get a chance to face your friend, Phil Brooks.
I don't know about that, Johnny. That's a different story for a different time, too. But Macho Man Randy Savage, I know fans are electric about it. He's not just a WWE superstar. In a lot of ways, he's a household name. He was around during the boom period in the 80s when they were on NBC Saturday Night's Main Event, when they would replace Saturday Night Live every 6 weeks. He was around for the second boom for the Monday Night Wars, where he was a monster star in WCW.
Yep.
Everyone remembers that, you know, snap into the Slim Jim commercial. Wouldn't it be nice if Miss Elizabeth got inducted with him? Or maybe separately on the same show.
We're right back where we started from here. You've come full circle. You've come full circle with me. I just made statements about other inductees, other people who are deserving, other female professional wrestlers and valets who belong in this Hall of Fame. What is the criteria? You know, I hate to say you're a carpenter, but right now you've hit the nail on the head. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we induct Randy Macho Man Savage and on the same ticket, the same night, oh yeah, Miss Elizabeth? That would be outstanding.
You talk about perhaps one of the only times you ever thought someone was coming out as a symbol of class. It was always Miss Elizabeth. And I have to say, she's not as big of a star as Randy Savage, but to anyone that watched wrestling in the 80s into the 90s, I have to say Miss Elizabeth was a household name.
Miss Elizabeth not only was a household name, but without Elizabeth, Savage was just another wrestler. I'm not going to be, look, you know what? He had the little gimmick, he had the hat, he did the spin around, but when she entered the picture, the storylines get better. You had George Steele doing his thing with Elizabeth. You had the Hulk Hogan, Elizabeth thing. It became an interesting program. She contributed greatly to his career. Not that he didn't have a career in his own, but she added the frosting to the cake, if I may use that terminology.
Well, let me ask you this now. I think we agree on Miss Elizabeth, but back to our buddy Lanny. He has stated all along that Randy's wish was for the entire Poffo family to be inducted, similar to how the Von Erich family was inducted several years back, where not all of them would be considered Hall of Famers, probably Kevin and Kerry. I think David was headed in that direction, but the other brothers, not so much.
Nope.
If you're WWE, do you think you should have given a stronger consideration to that and perhaps have had Randy in when he was living?
You know, Dan, I don't know about your life, but in my life, there are a lot of things that I look back on. There are a lot of things I would have liked to have said to a lot of people, but I can't because they passed away. You cannot ever go back. Savage was alive. He was performing. Nobody expected the good Lord on that particular day to say, Mr. Poffo, today you're coming home. Your heart's going to stop. You're going to hit that tree, and you're going to be coming home. So to say, should they have done it while he was alive, I think that what they try to do is to build the momentum to bring in stars at certain times and certain days. So, you know what? The past is the past. I have a theory. It's like a book. Take all your past pages and glue it in crazy glue. Only allow the present and be able to turn to the future. because the past will destroy the present, and you will have no future. So, in terms of Savage, I think they did the right thing. Nobody who expected your leg to be so bad. Nobody. You understand where I'm going with that?
That's a 10-year story, yeah.
But you see where I'm going with that.
Oh, sure.
So my whole thing is that, all right, I'm very thankful that this year somebody said Savage, Fafo, Lanny said yes, and we're paying homage and respect to another all-time great. Should they respect what supposedly Macho Man said? I want the whole family inducted. You know, I'm not as close as the fellows in the business out there, Vince and all the other guys. When did Macho Man Randy Savage say this? To whom did he say it? Where is it written? Is it merely a word by an individual to become part of an organization or something that's out there? And believe me, I'm not trying to berate or belittle anyone. I'm just being, quote unquote, the devil's advocate. It's up to the higher-ups to decide what offer is made and to who. And again, you know, sour grapes produce sour wine. Nobody drinks sour wine.
Well, wrestling fans, we're all looking forward to it. I imagine WWE Hall of Fame will be available on the WWE Network on March 28th for only
$9.99. But guess what? I'm going to be there live at WrestleMania.
You know, you can watch it on demand when you come home. That's one of the great things about the network. Or if you have a smart device, you could tune into the WWE Network on your cell phone while it's going on.
Wow. All I can tell you is it's the best $10 you could spend. Do it.
Wrestling fans, running out of time in this segment. We will be back with more great news, notes, thoughts, and opinions from two unique human beings, to say the least. See you next time.
In the making. Iconic moments take on a new life in stunning images, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews.
One of the most incredible nights I've ever had.
On that night, there's nobody else I could have done it with but Scott Hall.
Welcome to WrestleMania!
30 years of WrestleMania. Available September 15th. Pre-order now online or wherever books are sold.